Hey guys, it's Carl here, and today we're going to have a quick lesson on our Fretboard Focus series without using a fretboard. But it's going to be essential theory that every guitar player or every musician in general needs to know, but unfortunately most don't. Now this essential theory is understanding all of your major scales, knowing them cold, knowing them instantly. It's actually a skill that is very easy to develop, and I'm going to show you a quick method here in this video that's going to enable you to have all the notes of every major key in your head very quickly, which will, probably a couple of weeks, turn into instant recall. Now I'm going to let you know about a practice routine I like people to use with this method after you know the method and how to practice it to get that instant recall. So you don't have to use any type of a method at all. You don't want to be able to figure out something like if you're on stage and people are like, oh, it's jam in A. You don't need to be figuring out a method to figure out the notes of A major, even though you could figure them out. So what this method will do for you, you want to be able to actually instantly recall these things. But you need to be able to get the notes in your head first. But once you can do that, I'm going to give you a practice routine to get this to be instant. Now, why are major scales so important? They're pretty much, if you want to look at it, the foundation of music theory. Most forms of music theory, there's different types of areas of music theory, how people analyze things. It's pretty much saying the same thing with different names and look at it in a different direction. But almost all of them start with a major scale, and everything that you learn after that is compared to a major scale. You can use the major scale to learn your intervals very quickly, to learn how chords are constructed, how chord progressions are created, how melodies work, how melody harmonization works. All these things start with a solid understanding of the major scale, and you can treat almost everything else you learn in music theory, which is what a lot of music theory methods do, as altering a major scale. So for instance, figuring out your melodic minor scale by just lowering the third of a major scale, stuff like that. So if you have a solid understanding of major, everything else falls into place very quickly. All right, so what you're going to want to do is first download the PDF that summarizes everything that I'm going through here. So as I say it on video, you'll be able to see it on the PDF. Plus, you'll be able to take that and you don't have to rewatch the video constantly. So if you're watching this on YouTube, first link in the description is going to be a link right to my Academy, the page where this lesson resides. And once you're there, you'll see the link to the PDF right underneath the video. If you're already in the Academy, just click the link underneath the video. Getting to my Academy and accessing this lesson, completely free. Requires no emails, no sign-ups, nothing. It's just going to take you straight to the page. And then if you like this Fretboard Focus series, you'll actually see right above the video a little thing that says Collection Homepage. If you click there, it'll take you to the page where all of my Fretboard Focus lessons reside, and you can watch all the past episodes, obviously completely for free. Now, is there any prerequisites you need to know before jumping into this? No. As long as you know the first 7 letters of the alphabet, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. If you don't know that, you've probably got some things you need to work out first before you start doing music theory tutorials on YouTube. But if you can do A, B, C, D, E, F, G and do them in order, you're fine. That's all you need to know to do this method. We do have one aspect of this method that requires some memorization. What we're memorizing here is what would be called the order of flats or the order of sharps. I'm going to explain what that is in a bit. But let's start with the order of flats because they're a little bit easier to memorize because it's more than half of it spells a word. So the order of flats is B, E, A, D, G, C, F. Don't worry about it. I'm calling it order of flats or sharps. We're going to get to that. But so you can see the first 4 letters spell the word bead, B-E-A-D. And then you just got to remember G, C, F. You can beat or whatever you want to call it. But it's just memorize those 7 letters. And then we have the order of sharps, which is the exact same 7 letters, but in reverse. So it's F, C, G, D, A, E, B. Now, people will come up with mnemonic devices like for that order of sharps, that fat cows get dirty, always eating beans. There's a lot more inappropriate mnemonic sayings that people will come up with. So maybe you come up with your own. But just got to get 7 letters in your head and be able to go forward and backward through them. So starting with B, going through B, E, A, D, G, C, F, that's the order of flats, and then F, C, G, D, A, E, B, that's the order of sharps. You want to be able to go, it's the same 7 letters, just go backwards and forwards. So work on that for a few days. Get those memorized. Make it feel comfortable. And then that's really the only memorization we have. From there, it's just a very simple 3-step process for sharp keys and 2-step process for flat keys. That's extremely easy to follow. Now let's start by saying there's 2 types of keys. We're talking about major. We're not talking about like major and minor keys here. We're talking about all major keys. We have keys that use sharps, and we have keys that use flats. We have one key that uses no sharps or flats, so that's the key of C major. So that's very easy. There's no alterations to the scale. But beyond that C major, we have 7 sharp keys, and then we have 7 flat keys. For 15 keys total, that gives us all of our major keys. Now sharp keys, as long as they're diatonic, only contain sharps. Flat keys only contain flats. You're not going to see a major scale spelled out that uses both a sharp and a flat. Now, how do we know what is a sharp key or flat key, since it's 2 different methods to figure out each of them? Well, it's very simple. All flat keys have a flat in their name, except for one, but that one's very easy to memorize. So basically, if somebody tells you E flat or B flat or D flat or A flat, obviously it's a flat key. It's got a flat in its name. There is one key that does not have a flat in its name. That is a flat key, and it is the key of F. And that's easy to memorize as a flat key because it's the first letter in the word flat. So key of F is a flat key, and then beyond that, all other flat keys have a flat in their name. Now knowing that, that means all other keys, key of G, D, A, E, B, they're all sharp keys. So they only use sharps to alter the notes. We talked about we have the key of C major, which has no sharps or flats at all. But beyond that, we have sharp keys and we have flat keys, and it's very easy to determine which is what. Basic understanding of major scales. They all contain 7 notes. They all contain the exact same 7-letter names. So, and the musical alphabet goes from A, B, C, D, E, F, and G. Those are the 7 letters that we use in all of music. Every single major scale has some form of an A, B, C, D, E, F, and G in it. So the first step is to start on the note that we want. So we want the note, the key of C major. Well, we will go to that musical alphabet, we'll start on C. And then we'll just kind of, it's like a musical merry-go-round. We're gonna go C, D, E, F, G, A, B. So we're gonna just go back around to the beginning, A, B, and that's gonna give us our 7 notes, C, D, E, F, G, A, B. We do the same thing for, say, D major. We'd start on D and go D, E, F, G, A, B, C. So it's as simple as that. We're just gonna start on the note and then wrap around. So if we started on A, just A, B, C, D, E, F, G. So that's the first step of knowing, you gotta get the letters right. But it's gonna be one letter, the same 7 letters are gonna be used in every major key. We're just gonna start and stop on different points. All right, let's start getting into individual keys here. Let's start with sharp keys. And you'll notice that most guitar music is in sharp keys. But you want to be fluent in all keys, so don't even think about that. So we're gonna start here by, first of all, finding the key note. So they'll call the key note the tonic, whatever. It's the note that if you're in the key of D major, it's the letter D. If you're in the key of B major, it's the letter B. That's the key note, all right? So when you find, know this note. So for instance, let's say we want the key of D major. So in that A, B, C, D, that musical alphabet, the first step in figuring out a sharp key, the first of the 3 steps, is you're gonna go 1 letter back in the alphabet. So if we want the key of D, D major, we're gonna go 1 letter back in the alphabet to C and put a sharp on it. So that means we're gonna go back from D to C sharp. So what that note is, that C sharp, is that's giving us our last sharp that we need. If we go back to that order of sharps that we memorized at the beginning, that F, C, G, D, A, E, B, that is the order of sharps. So basically, you're always gonna start at the very beginning of that. And we just now found out from the key of D major that C sharp is where we're going to, this is what's going to be our last sharp. So What that means is we're going to go look at that order of sharps, and we're going to go through the entire order of sharps until we get to that C sharp. So we have to start with F. You can't have a C sharp in a key unless there's an F sharp as well. So we have F sharp, and then we get to that C sharp. So C sharp was the second sharp in the order of sharps. Now what does that tell? So that's where you'll stop. So what does that tell us? That means that the key of D major has two sharps in it, an F sharp and a C sharp. When you're going back one letter name in the alphabet, so from that D back to that C sharp, what you're doing is with that C sharp is figuring out the stopping point in the order of sharps. For instance, if you wanted to now do this with the key of, let's say, A major. So we can start with an A. Now we're going to go back in that memory. You got to go to that musical merry-go-round, so it's going to go back to G sharp. So remember, we're doing the musical. We don't have the first starting A. You got to go back to the end, right? So that G sharp, it's a half step beneath A, but it's just one letter back in the musical merry-go-round, and then you throw a sharp on that letter. So that's a G sharp. So then when we go to our order of sharps again, we have to once again start with an F. You gotta go in order: F sharp, C sharp, G sharp. So what that tells us is those are the three sharps that are used for the key of A major. So A major has three sharps. Now we're to the final step for sharp keys. You're gonna go back to this. Let's go back to the key of D major. So we'll start on D and go through the musical alphabet, just listing all the. Don't worry about the sharps yet. Just go D, E, F, G, back to the A, B, C. So you don't have to add the octave there. So that'll give us our 7 letter names starting on the D. D, E, F, G, A, B, C. Now we know that we also have 2 sharps. So we're going to alter 2 of the notes in the scale. We're going to make that F an F sharp, and we're going to make that C a C sharp. Now you have the D major scale. That's D, E, F sharp, G, A, B, C sharp. We can do this process for any key we want. Let's say we want to do this for the key of E major. Real quickly, so you know E in the alphabet, go back one letter name to D and make that a D sharp. That tells us our last sharp. Go to your order of sharps. So that's step 2, F, C, G, D. So that's where we're going to start and stop right there. So we basically have 4 sharps in the key of E major. Now list E, start on E in the musical alphabet, E, F, G, A, B, C, D. 7 letters, now add the sharps to it. We have 4 sharps, right? Always go in order. F sharp, C sharp, G sharp, D sharp. And then you have a full E major scale. So that is it for sharp keys. Now you want to practice it. I'll show you. You'll see a complete list of major keys there that'll correspond with this method in the PDF. Before we get to the flat keys, I want to emphasize that this is a method. All right, so this is a method to get these notes correctly in your head. All right. This routine that I'm going to give you at the end is going to enable you to use this method every day until you no longer have to use this method. You don't want to have to be able to, like if you're jamming in a band and we're going to go, let's jam in the key of G, that you have to figure out the notes of G major. You need to know them cold, but you need to get them in your head first to enable that. So this is what this method's for, but it will not require this much thinking just a couple of weeks, 2, 3, 4 weeks down the road. After you've used this and done this method in your head, you're just going to start knowing the notes. You're not going to have to always figure out the notes of A major. When you see the notes of A major and you figure it out every day, multiple times a day for a couple of weeks, you just know them cold. And that's what we're trying to get to here. All right, so let's look at flat keys. Now, this is even easier. This is 2 steps that you got to do here. But we're not going to be working with the order of flats. Remember, that's the B, E, A, D, G, C, F. So the B, G, C, F. That is the order of flats. Now, how do we use these to figure out flat keys? Well, first we need to know our key. So we wanted to use the key, figure out the key of E flat major. So what we're going to do is we're going to start with our order of flats, and you're going to go through that order of flats until you get to that key note. So in this case, E flat. And then what you're going to do is you're going to go one flat further. You're going to add one more flat in the order of flats. So how does that work? So if we're in the key of E flat major, and we know our order of flats is B flat, E flat, A flat, D flat, G flat, C flat, F flat. You're going to start in the beginning and start with B flat. Always have to go in order. And then the second one is that E flat, which is our keynote. But like I said, this first step requires you to go one flat further. So that's going to be A flat. And that's going to be your stopping point. So you always go to the keynote and then add one more flat. And it's as simple as that. So the key of E flat major has a B flat, an E flat, and an A flat. If we did this again with, say, A flat major, you got to go through till you find the keynote, then add one. So that would be for the flats used in A flat major would be B flat, E flat, A flat, D flat. So it's 4 flats in that key. And then the second step to do this is just, once again, let's start on the keynote in the musical alphabet. Say, let's go back to that E flat. Well, you can start it on E or you just call it E flat or whatever. And then list F, G, A, B, C, D. And then look at you can see from an E flat major, you needed 3 flats. You needed to make sure there's a flat on that B, there's a flat on the E, and there's a flat on the A, and you have the notes of E flat major. So just like sharp keys, you can't have an A flat without having a B flat and an E flat in the key as well. You can't skip around. Always got to go in order. What we're trying to find is that last sharp or that last flat, because all the ones leading up to that have to be included automatically. So let's talk about one more flat key, that key of F. So that key of F is a little anomaly in the flat keys in that it doesn't have a flat in its name, but it is a flat key. Now, it's the flat key that has one flat. So that's the reason why it can't really have a flat in its name, because we were always going one more flat further, and so we know it's like if it's in the key of B flat major, it goes B flat, E flat. So that second to last flat is the one that told us the keynote. Well, we only have one flat here, so can't do that. So you basically got to memorize that F is a flat key. It's the first letter in the word flat, so it's easy to memorize. And it's going to start the flat keys, basically. It's going to have one flat. And of course, if it has one flat, that always has to be a B flat, because B flat is always the first flat. So that is it for the 2 methods here. We have obviously the key of C major, which would start on the musical alphabet, start on C, and go C, D, E, F, G, A, B, and nothing needs to be altered. It's perfect as it is. It's a perfect major scale. Every other key is going to need to be altered. And we have either sharp keys, 7 sharp keys, because we obviously have 7 sharps, and 7 flat keys, because we have 7 flats. And that'll give you 15 keys total. And hopefully this method will enable you to get these in your head very quickly. But now let's talk about a practice routine that's going to enable you to get cold memorization of this as quick as possible. All right, a practice routine that I have my Academy members do with this, because I put this understanding keys, major keys lesson, the beginning of all my improv courses in the Academy, the beginning of my musicianship course, which is basically a combination of ear training and theory together. Because I don't believe like learning theory on itself is actually that great unless you know what it sounds like. So I have a course that, yeah, we go through ear training, but we're learning theory and ear training together. We don't learn a theory concept and out of nowhere. If you don't know what it sounds like, it doesn't really matter. It's hard to apply musically. But so this I use all over in my Academy, and I have this practice routine to get people to develop cold memorization of the scales. So it's kind of a simple process. You can use the old flashcards, which I wish people would get back to. They worked very well in my childhood. But it's as simple as this. Take 15 flashcards. Write out, you can see the list of the major keys if you want the help with that or whatever, but hopefully this method is going to enable you to figure them out. But you have that list of major keys there still in the PDF, so you know that you're not missing any. But you basically write out the name of the key, so let's say the key of A major. You write out the name of that key on one side, and then on the other side, you write out the full scale A, B, C sharp, D, E, F sharp, G sharp. All right? So you do that for every key. So you have 15 keys, and just make them random, randomize them and stuff like that. And what you want to do, maybe in the morning, in the beginning it might take you some time, like 10 minutes to get through it all. using this method to figure out your keys. But a few days in, it's going to get quicker, and then at the end, it's just going to be instant within weeks. So basically, all you got to do is go through your list cards, get your first key, say it's the key of D major, and before you flip the card over, be able to spell D, E, F sharp, G, A, B, C sharp, and then check your work. Put it down, do the next key. Go through all 15 keys. See if you can do this. You just got to go through them once. Do this, or if you want to do it twice, it's fine. Keep it random, and then if you can do this multiple times a day, 2 or 3 times a day, within a couple of weeks, when you see that A major, you're not going to have to use this method. Now, in the beginning, you are. You're going to have to go, okay, this D major is a sharp key. It's okay, go back to the C sharp, that's 2 sharps. So D, E, F sharp, G. You have to lay it out kind of mechanically like we did in this method. But after you see that exact same name of a key with that exact same collection of notes, you're just going to know it instantly within weeks. And that's what we're trying to get to. So you're going to use the method, and then you'll find that the more you do this every day and recall on the exact same notes, exact same keys, it's not like there's hundreds of them. You're going to develop instant recall. So this is it's a very simple system. Do it 2 or 3 times a day and make your brain recall the information multiple times a day. Within 2 weeks, maybe up to 4 weeks or whatever, you're just going to know your keys. You're not going to have to use this method anymore. You're just going to know your major keys. And then from there, you can use them to really get into music theory, using them as interval training, which I show you how to do all this in the academy, like how to use the major scale to figure out intervals and chords and chord progressions and all that stuff. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. Just review the PDF if you have any questions with it, or watch the video again. But it is an extremely simple process to get what a lot of people would see as like the circle of fifths. They see that, and it's like it's just cold memorization from the beginning, and it's very intimidating for people. It's the reason why most people don't have this. This gives you the exact same circle of fifths information. Basically, what's happening is when you're adding a new sharp to a key, if you go from 1 sharp to a key to now having 2 sharp to key, the key jumps up a fifth. So it's still the circle of fifths, but what it is, it's a method that enables you to work it out in your brain instead of just trying to do a cold memorization of all those sharps and flat keys using the circle of fifths. If you can just understand how to work it out first, your brain's going to understand it a lot easier. And it's not a very difficult process. Like I said, it's a simple 3-step process for sharp keys, 2-step process for flat keys. All right, so I hope you guys enjoyed this little theory-based Fretboard Focus series. I'll be back soon with another one.